Welcome into Minnesota Vikings now. We are 22 subscribers away from 11,100 subs here. We're that close. I am told by our bosses that if we don't get there today, the channel is in danger of being deleted because that's a really easy bar to clear. So if you haven't already, subscribe. And if you want more Vikings videos in the future, us to not delete the channel, tell your friends about it as well. Today's show focuses in on 5 free agent corners the Minnesota Vikings can sign. Not trading for, so we're crossing off Jalen Ramsey. That was yesterday's video. Instead, looking at who the Vikings can pursue in the open market. Guys who may or probably will not be franchise tagged, so no Jamel Dean on this list. 5 corners, beginning with a guy we've talked about before. That's Cam Sutton, the Steelers corner who I thought played really well for them. And in a trend we'll see a little bit of, does offer some inside-outside flexibility. 3 interceptions, 8 pass breakups. What's most intriguing to me is, in general, I don't care that much about tackle numbers at corner. If you have a high tackle number, you're either a nickel or you got beat a lot. So in general, I prefer not to have high tackle numbers. 71 targets, allowed only 36 of those to be caught. That's really good production out of Cam Sutton. And for those of you who care about PFF, graded quite highly as well. I think for the most part, we would agree that the cornerback spot is one of, if not the biggest need for this Vikings team. Patrick Peterson, Duke Shelley, and Chandon Sullivan, 3 of your top corners, are all going to be free agents. Now, ideally, you bring back at least one of them. Our fingers are crossed on Shelley, but as it sits right now, you've got Cam Dantzler, Andrew Booth, Caleb Evans, and kind of worried about Dantzler long-term, and Andrew Booth didn't play that much, neither did Caleb Evans, so there's a lot of unknown uncertainty for a cornerback group, and that in general last year wasn't nearly good enough. Sutton is a good blend of really good player, shouldn't be wildly expensive either, so it helps make the numbers and the math work in terms of the cost versus the level of play you'll get. You're not throwing $20 million or upwards or more, or trading for someone like a Jalen Ramsey. It's a bit more affordable while still making your cornerback group better. So when it comes to the free agent corners, who is your top free agent target for the Minnesota Vikings? This will be today's pinned comment. So if an ad break happens to come here on YouTube, cool, ignore it. While the ad plays, head down there, go get your votes in for the top free agent target at corner for the Minnesota Vikings. A bigger name now, James Bradberry. He's been a little bit inconsistent over the course of his career. Great year, not so great year. Gets cut, then plays great. It's kind of like a little bit of the Ryan Fitzpatrick, although higher level play of the Ryan Fitzpatrick cycle. He was great this year as the Eagles' number 2 cornerback opposite Darius Slay. Targeted 87 times, allowed 40 catches. That is some elite level production when you're allowing under 50% completion. Means things are really, really good for you on that front. 3 interceptions, 12 pass breakups. Pretty good production overall. Was very impressive from Bradberry, who does turn 30 before this upcoming, which I think will bring down the value. Spotrac lists it as a 3-year, $15.1 million deal with a little bit more guaranteed money, of course, there. I would do that in a heartbeat for James Bradberry. I think he is still one of the better, if not full-fledged, number 1 corners, a really good number 2. That's kind of top 10-ish in terms of the cornerback market. I think he might get more. The Spotrac projections are projections, guesses, estimations, so things can be a bit wonky. Would you, though, offer that contract? I'm doing it right now, and I'm feeling happy about getting him on the team. But I would wonder if in the end he ends up going for just a little bit more when it's all said and done. Number 3, and this one would be a cheaper option, is veteran corner Anthony Brown. Now, there are plenty of Cowboys fans who don't like him, but the offense very much struggled, or the defense struggled, and the cornerback 2 spot was a nightmare once Anthony Brown got hurt, did not return. He was better in 2021, where he had 2 bad games, one against the Bucs, one in a penalty-filled fest of underthrown balls from Derek Carr. But he has been a reliable veteran number 2 corner, if not a premier one. The Cowboys saw how rough it was until the end of the year when they tried 4 or 5 different corner combinations to replace Anthony Brown. But I am a bit nervous here. Coming off the torn Achilles, he does turn 30 during this upcoming season. That's not a combo that I love which should raise some potential red flags in terms of the contract and reliability of him. If he were healthy, be a lot more interest in him. Coming off the injury, the Achilles, that's at least got to vet that and make sure he ends up being okay. Now, it is okay are these Vikings jerseys on sale. Chatsports.com/Vikings jersey. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. They're from our friends over at Fanatics. Lots of jerseys: Jefferson, Kirk Cousins, Harrison Smith, Randy Moss throwback. I'd go with Jefferson myself because you know he's not going anywhere. Again, links in the comments and the description there. You can get them as low as under $100, which is a great deal for a jersey these days. Chatsports.com/Vikings jersey. Let's move to number 4. Emmanuel Moseley, I think still kind of flies under the radar, Moseley does. The 49ers cornerback who did miss a good chunk of time this year, so we can't give him, I don't know how much influence they'll get there in the end. A lot of great numbers and a very small sample size, of course, there for Emmanuel Moseley. Coming off the injury, I feel better about him. It was an earlier injury, less severe, so I'm not as worried about Moseley recovering from that. I think he'd be a good scheme fit for what Brian Flores will want to do on defense. And he's the youngest option of this grouping, or at least one of the younger options of this grouping so far. Just 26 years old, has had good play. I do wonder if a team like the Houston Texans, who have DeMeco Ryans as their new defensive coordinator, are going to be heavily in the mix to land Moseley via free agency, since they could pair him with Derek Stingley, be in good shape there long term. But I would have interest in a player like Moseley. Probably would be a one-year prove-it deal coming off the injury, but I'm okay with that because you could still draft somebody and then just slot him in behind Moseley in the long term. Now, how do you want to fix this Vikings cornerback room? Because let's be honest, it needs fixing. It was not nearly good enough this past year. So let me know. D for draft, FA for free agency. Get those answers in for me in the comment section of today's video. Number 5, Jonathan Jones. Now, he's a smaller corner, but has played on the outside and some inside for New England. And something about these New England Patriots corners, they end up playing pretty darn well for the most part. 4 interceptions, throwing 5 more pass breakups in 2022 for Jones. Little high on the tackles, got targeted a lot, but overall did a pretty good job as a corner. The Patriots have not been shy about moving on from corners in the past. I think for the Vikings defense, he's kind of a Duke Shelley-Jones or similar-ish build. Jones a little bit bigger, I believe. One plays the nickel if you bring back Shelley. One plays the outside. You're going to have to pay him a good amount of money, but that, I think, takes care of your cornerback issue. Before we go, one somewhat not serious honorable mention. Eli Apple, if only for the social media and the memes. Apple could be more of a depth piece. I don't want him as the cornerback number 2. He's actually been much better in Cincinnati than he was in places like the Saints or the Giants. But he has always been an elite-level trash talker, probably too much so, and draws the ire of Saints fans hate him. They are not over Eli Apple. They never will be. But that aspect, I don't mind a trash talker at corner. Tends to lead to some mistakes from the opposing side, so I don't mind that front at all. Again, cornerback remains a significant area of need for this Vikings team, and maybe you find someone in the draft, but with 3 of your top guys free agents, you need to sign, or 4 if you want to include Chris Boyd. You can't enter the draft with Dantzler, Booth, Tay Gowan, Caleb Evans, and Kalen Barnes as your corners. You have to, at minimum, re-sign 2 players or re-sign one and sign a veteran, because I'm not sure I trust Cam Dantzler. I want to believe in Andrew Booth as one piece, but Caleb Evans was a 4th rounder. I liked him coming out of Missouri, but banking on 4th rounders with little play in the past typically doesn't go well. So to recap one more time, our top 5 free agent targets at corner. Cameron Sutton of the Pittsburgh Steelers. James Bradberry of the Eagles, probably going to be the best available non-franchise tag free agent corner. Anthony Brown of the Cowboys fits that cheap 1-year deal coming off a torn Achilles. Slots in at cornerback 2 and he's very fast, by the way. Hopefully he still maintains that coming off the Achilles. Slots in well opposite, ideally a number 1 corner. Emmanuel Moseley, younger coming off injury. Buy low, bounce back, prove it deal contract. And Jonathan Jones, another one of the top free agent corners, last with the New England Patriots.